turn it over to Dr. Heavenridge.
Hello, Mr. Chairman and board members. I have an athletics plan for both the high schools and the middle schools. For the high school, beginning October the 5th, for student athletes and coaches on a voluntary basis, we would implement phase 2 conditioning and workouts. The first week of October 5th through the 9th will be used for preparation. Preparation is for the contacting of the students, excuse me, for students and coaches, getting parent and student signatures on the COVID-19 questionnaire, and preparing the equipment and cleaning issues that are necessary. The first actual day for actual students on the field or on the court would be Monday, October the 12th of 2020. For the middle schools, since the middle schools transitioned 2 years ago to the Waccamaw Middle School Conference, we will revert back to the Bladen 4, where Bladen County Schools, middle schools, will play one another, and then the Columbus County Schools will play one another in an effort to games will start in January, and this will be an effort to get all the sports played within about a 5-week period per sport. Conditionings and tryouts for middle schools will begin as early as December the 7th for basketball and cheerleading. However, the first games will not begin until January 2021. And I ask you to consider this plan and this to open up the sports, the conditioning, and workout.
Dr. Heavenridge has laid the motion on the table to accept the sports conditioning guidelines. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
This is Mr. Dennis.
Alan West.
I have a motion and a second by Mr. Alan West. Any discussion?
Question, volleyball starts. Is there any restrictions, or what's the restrictions for practicing indoors, or are there any?
They will have to prepare the courts and the cleaning for that, and they have to maintain for the practicing. They're going to have to maintain the 6 feet. They can only have 9 players at a time in an area, and they're going to have to keep the balls, sanitized. That's why the I've been in conference with the athletic directors, and that's why they want this week of October 5th through the 9th to prepare for these conditioning workout situations.
Gotcha. And do you know what restrictions are when games actually start for crowds?
No, sir.
Okay.
We're not going. No, sir, not yet.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Gary Rhoda.
You said something about conditioning and workouts.
Yes.
Do you have a plan for conditioning and workouts?
Say that again, Mr. Rhoda.
Do you have a plan for conditioning and workouts? How is that going to work?
The phase 2 plan that association has written out, that's what will be used as a guideline and implemented by the athletic directors and the coaches. They can only have like 9, like if you have 25 students that come out, they can have clusters of 5 students.
When you say conditioning, what are you talking about? Conditioning and
like stretching, exercising, in order to build up their
and where would they be doing this at, Mr. Everidge?
They will be doing this at the schools, Mr. Rhoda. If it's football, if they want them to come back, or soccer, they will be out there on the soccer field. Or if it's in volleyball, they would be in the gymnasium, in the court, practicing. Or, doing their, getting prepared, conditioning. They're going to have, the main reason for the conditioning is to build up their stamina when they participate in the game. And that's what we've been missing. That's what the children normally, in the summertime, that's when they start, is conditioning to build up their stamina to participate, and that's what they've missed out on. And that's what this phase 2 addresses. As far as actual putting on the equipment and having contact like in football or basketball, that does not start till they implement phase 3. And I have not been told about that yet. We have not actually, we do not have a schedule yet for games.
Dr. Everidge.
Yes.
How many sports teams will be starting in October conditioning?
The ones that will be for, well, you'll start with, I'm going to leave that up to the athletic director. The conditioning part is just to help them. It's going to serve 2 purposes. It's going to let the students be with their coaches and interact with one another, and also do the exercises to help build themselves up.
Mr. Chair, let me intervene for a minute. Dr. Everidge, let me add a few comments. This particular plan will allow for voluntary workouts. There are many districts where the athletic programs or the various sports do conduct what they call voluntary workouts. In the past, before COVID-19, sports were able to do that, and they have specific regulations or guidelines in terms of how many can get together. And so those workouts are voluntary. And so we've had a number of coaches and a number of players to ask that they be allowed to do this. Because it's voluntary, no player is required to do it, and no coach is allowed to do it. And so with that being said, it would have to take both the coach and the players to participate in these voluntary workouts. The phase, I think it's phase 2.5. I think it was Mr. Rhoda that you asked about this. This does govern the kinds of things that they can do in terms of how they would clean equipment, if it's workout equipment, how they would do basketballs, footballs, or whatever particular things that would be used for a voluntary workout. And so that is governed by the High School Athletic Association in terms of what they can and can't do. As far as the actual practices, and I think volleyball and maybe track are the first sports. The High School Athletic Association defines when that first practice can be done. So that means that all of the social distancing and the group size requirements will be governed by the High School Athletic Association. If for some reason there is a coach that does not wish to continue to coach a sport, then he will have to notify the principal and the athletic director, and that will put us in a position that we've got to hire a new coach. At this current time, all coaches are being paid based on what the sport stipend is. If for some reason they decided that they wouldn't, then they would have to reimburse the school district for that money. And so this is just a recommendation that will allow us to begin voluntary workouts and then allow us to do actual practices when that particular season comes into play. And so again, voluntary, nobody is required to do it.
Can I make a correction? I made a mistake on the middle school. The Bladen 4 would just be applied to football. If we get back into playing other sports, middle school will play the Waccamaw Conference, Columbus County Schools.
And that's just in football, is that what you said?
Yes, it's football only, that they will just be the traditional Bladen 4, Bladen County Schools will play, but the other sports, they will participate in the Waccamaw Middle School Conference.
Okay. Any more discussion before we take the vote? If not, I'm gonna call for a vote. Miss Valerie Newton, I yield to you.
Thank you, sir. As I call your name, please indicate your vote. Chris Clark.
Aye.
Dennis Edwards.
Aye.
Barry Lewis. We'll come back. Gary Rhoda.
Nay.
Vincent Rozier.
Aye.
Corey Singletary.
Nay.
Alan West.
Aye.
Glenn McCoy.
Aye.
Barry Lewis. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Roger Carroll. Mr. Carroll, you have 7 yeses and 2 nos.
Thank you very much, and Dr. Heaven Ridge, you could go ahead and pass it on to our 2 high schools, and that we can get those kids out there and start conditioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, board. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to take a few minutes to answer some questions regarding school reentry changes based on the governor's recommendation. And I will hopefully answer any questions or all questions that the board members may have. Question number 1 that was sent to me said moving 5th grade to elementary schools. They follow the same guidelines as K-4 and also have modified social distancing, whereas grade 6 and up must follow the 6-foot distancing. 5th graders also can't do battle of the books or sports at the middle school. Moving the 5th grade back will help us retain our students and not lose them to other schools. And so what I'll share is that a decision was made probably 12 to 15 years ago to move the 5th grade to the middle school because of overcrowding. We currently have 278 5th graders. Bladenboro Middle has 70, Clarkton has 39, E-Town Middle has 95, and Tar Heel has 73. If at any point we decide to move those numbers back, the Bladenboro Primary would have, they would pick up about 80. That's 70 from Bladen Middle and 10, approximately 10 from Clarkton. So they may not have enough room. East Arcadia will pick up about 9 5th graders. They would have enough space. Elizabethtown Primary will pick up about 65 from Elizabethtown Middle, about 20 from Clarkton. They would not have enough space. Bladen Lakes will pick up about 30. They would have enough space. Dublin Primary will pick up 46. They may have enough space. The Plainview would pick up about 27, and they would not have enough space. And so again, 5th graders were initially moved because of overcrowding. So we could rehouse some in some of our primary schools, but it would depend on the numbers. Another question is, does the health department recommend reopening with modified social distancing? The health department recommends that Bladen County Schools follow the new pre-K-12 guidelines, with the modified social distancing for pre-K 5, which means no congregating in the halls, etc., follow the classroom and bus regulations. The health director said to share with the board that she commends the cafeteria workers, the nurses, the Bladen County staff, and all for working with the health department, all on their own speed dial, and have collaborated well together, and let the board know they're doing a great job. Question number 3 was, what is modified social distancing? That's defined as minimal social distancing in classrooms, 6 feet in all other areas, no congregating other than the classroom. The masks are to be worn in buildings and on buses with suggested but not required mask breaks. So classes can have regular occupancy, but students continue to wear masks. Buses with pre-K 5 students can have 2 per seat, but buses that have 612 students mixed in with pre-K 5 students, they would have to revert to having 1 per seat, with siblings being able to sit on the same seat. Question number 4 was, do schools have adequate PPE available at the schools right now? Where is the supply of PPE located and who's responsible for resupply? So the answer is yes, they have gowns, face masks, eye shields, gloves, thermometers, wipes, and hand sanitizer, both for classrooms and for entry in the building. The central office and the maintenance office house the extra PPE equipment that we have, and Russell Worley and Elizabeth Brown, Ann Brown, they are responsible for managing that, and any equipment or PPE used for hot situations where infections have been identified, the maintenance department houses that equipment. Question number 5 was, how do you come up with 32% out of East Bladen wanting to return to school? It says for those that responded about virtual or in person, there was a 50-50 split between the two. It looked like over 300 students did respond and ask their preference. And so for the most part, that is correct. And those were the numbers at the time. At East Bladen High School, as of today, 170 students wanted face-to-face and 171 wanted virtual. And they had another 215 that had not responded. And so all schools have students that have not been contacted. They will remain in virtual unless they indicate to the school differently. And so at this time, 171 out of those numbers would represent 30% wanting face-to-face. And the 171 wanting virtual and the 215 not responding would represent 70%. Question number 6 asks, is there a way to designate a certain teacher, designate certain teachers for in-person teaching and certain teachers for virtual teaching? I've talked to several teachers and they are getting burned out doing both. It's becoming very exhausting work, and I was just wondering if there's a more efficient way to do the teaching part. And so the response is each principal has the autonomy to assign teaching staff to the various modes based on what they view as best. For an example, if a school has only 1 teacher at a grade level, they teach multiple grades, they would be responsible for teaching all the content, and support staff can be assigned to help. So you do have situations where they only have 1 teacher at a grade level, or a teacher has to teach 2 grade levels. Another example, a school that has multiple teachers at a grade level can designate 1 portion of the teachers to do virtual and/or package, and the other portion to do face-to-face. So I have asked principals to look closely at how this work is assigned, to not stress teachers out over performance expectations, and to follow the normal protocols of contacting parents and students when students are not completing work. That includes teacher calls, then the school counselor or the social worker or the principal calls. So those were the questions that I received from the board, and so I did want to provide you answers to those. I also want to kind of give an indication of what numbers we can expect in school. And so at Bladenboro Primary, with the enrollment that they have and the number that will be coming to school, that represented about 243 students that will be face-to-face. That's roughly 41 students per grade level. So that means if you got 4 fourth grade teachers, they'd have about 10 students each. Bladen Lakes Primary has 72 students that wish to return. That's approximately 12 per grade level. Dublin Primary had 98 that would return, and that would be 16 per grade level. East Arcadia has 33. That's approximately 7 per grade level. And Elizabethtown Primary has 257. That's approximately 43 per grade level. And then Plainview Primary has 89, which is approximately 15 per grade level. And so you would have to take those grade level numbers divided by the number of teachers, and that would give you the approximate number that they would actually have in the classroom if they all return face to face based on the parents' wishes. So that does give some indication of what the numbers would look like. And so I want to share the following recommendation that I'm making to the board, and I will give some rationales, and then I will answer any other questions that the board may have. And so tonight I will be recommending that pre-K through 4, which is our primary schools, attend 4 days a week with 1 day for cleaning beginning October the 19th. That our middle schools, grades 5 through 8, attend on an A day, which is Monday and Tuesday, and a B day, which is Thursday and Friday, with Wednesday for cleaning beginning October the 19th as well. And that our high school, grades 9 through 12, continue virtually for the remainder of the first semester, and that they return the second semester on the 4th of January on A day and B day. So that is the recommendation that I'm making. And quickly, the rationale for the primary schools is that roughly 50% of the parents want face-to-face and 50% want virtual. Bladenboro has a slightly higher percentage, that's around 6% wanting face-to-face. The parents and staff and principals are concerned about cleaning and want a day for that. For our middle schools, again, roughly 50%. The parents want face-to-face and 50% want virtual, with the number of 8th graders wanting face-to-face being slightly higher. Again, Bladenboro numbers are slightly higher for face-to-face. The including the 5th grade in the all-day setting with grades 6 through 8 creates a logistical problem for buses being shared, teachers being shared, and the logistics in the school. Parents, staff, and principals are concerned about cleaning, and they do want a day for cleaning. The grades 9 through 12, again, the percentages wanting face-to-face versus virtual is about 70-30, 65-35, with 35% wanting face-to-face. And also with arrangements with Bladen Community College for classes to continue in the current mode, changes to match school schedules and transporting students to BCC to create logistical problems. And high school students are also the most experienced with virtual learning. You heard the concerns about staff. We did a survey to gauge how they were feeling about the students' return. And so we've got most that are willing to return, but they do have concerns about what it would look like with numbers, social distancing, and transmission of the COVID-19 virus. And so those are the rationales for my recommendation. And I hope that I've answered all the questions that you all had. Mr. Chair, I'll yield for the board to approve the recommendation, hopefully, and then answer any questions that you may have before that.
Before we have any questions and answers, let's just see if we got a motion and a second. This time, I'm opening it up for a motion and a second to accept Dr. Taylor's return to school plan. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the school reentry plan.
I have a motion by Mr. Glenn McCoy. Do I have a second?
Roger's muted, he's trying to second it.
Do I have a second?
Mr. Roger's trying to, he's unmute, he's calling one out.
Mr. Rozier, if you're trying to speak, we need you to unmute your microphone, please, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Second motion.
Thank you.
I have a motion by Mr. Glenn McCoy and a second by Mr. Vince Rozier. At this time, I'll ask for any discussion. Alan Reyes?
Yeah. Well, I just want to say I'm kind of disappointed that the high schools aren't going back, at least on the AB schedule, and we're not letting them go back. And I'm not going to approve this. I won't approve this plan if we don't get the high schoolers back.
I have a question also. I would like to know how many. I would like to know how many people we have out with this virus. How many staff members and students?
In total.
Conditions.
We don't have to know their names, Dr. Taylor.
So Dr. Baby, do we know that number? Is that something that we can share? Just the number?
I think it's very professional that we do not have those numbers on hand to tell the board how many people that we have that have been affected in the school system.
We have 9 people that are out, she said?
No, 9 that have been infected. That's 2 different questions.
Okay, so we've had 9 different people that have been infected since this summer. And of those 9, many of those are already back at school.
Another thing, Dr. Taylor, is that we are a real poor county. And it would be hard for us to bring all these kids back to school. I don't think we have the money for that.
I understand, Mr. Rhoda, and that's why I believe it's important that we do a phased return, because I do recognize that when the governor says that all of the students in kindergarten through 5th grade can return with minimal social distancing in the class, that means you could potentially have 514 students to return to Elizabethtown Primary. But based on what they have is actually going to be 257 students. And so that means the average teacher may have 9 or 10 kids that are actually in their class. So we won't have classrooms that has 22, 23 students in it. But you will have some that have as few as 3 or 4, and some that may have as high as 13 or 14, depending on what the teacher assignment is, and how the principal assigns those teachers to those students. And so, and what we see is a reflection of what's happening in the community. We have a portion of our community that wants kids to return. We have a portion of our community that do not want kids to return. And while different people have different voices, just as the members of the board do, when I look at the numbers absolutely tell us what parents wish to do. And that is about a 50-50 split. 50% say they want their students to return, 50% say they will keep their students at home. And so that is the dilemma that we have. I agree with you, we are a poor county, but what I can tell the board, we will take every precaution to keep students safe. We will take a phased-in approach to how we bring students back. We do have districts across the state that are remaining virtual until the 2nd semester, perhaps at the end of the year. We have school districts that have brought all students back based on capacity in A day or B day. And so that is why I made this recommendation. I know at this point the high school students would be the ones that would remain virtual until the end of the semester, but they are the ones that are most prepared to do virtual learning. And by bringing back elementary school, it does give a relief to parents who do have work situations and childcare situations that remain difficult for them. Even when we bring students back at the middle and primary level, we may have to revert to virtual learning if staff become infected and we don't have available staff or enough staff to run school. And so we do know that this is going to fluctuate.
Can you hear my thought now?
Yes, sir.
I'm in agreement with Alan. I would still love to see the high school students at least have 2 days. You have freshmen and senior, and I mean the rest of the plan with the middle school and the elementary, I like it, but I would still love to see the high school students have an opportunity.
Is there any more discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say, I'll quit. This is Alan. I just think every parent, every child should have the opportunity to choose what they want to do. If they want to go back to school, we need to let them go back to school. If they want to be virtual, they can be virtual. I just think we ought to give the parents the choice in all grades of grades. So that's my final
Mr.
statement.
West, I agree with you to an extent, but I also think that our teachers, who are some of them probably are my age or a little younger, who is high risk, and some of them have these conditions also, I think they should have a choice also.
We would have a good plan.
Wasn't there a survey for the teachers, Dr. Taylor?
Yes. And
What did that survey say?
said, are you willing to return to school and work with students in the building for 5 days a week? 193 said yes, 71 said no, 169 said unsure. Do you think schools should open for pre-K 5 students on October the 5th, 5 days a week? 68 said yes, 242 said no, and 120 said unsure. And so when we talk about teachers being available, any school employee that has an underlying condition and they have the ability to telework, then we honor that request and we won't require them to come into work. Any teacher that does not have an underlying condition, but they are uneasy, they are required to come to work, and that's what they do. And so when we introduce students into the school, if there's an employee who is truly afraid or they don't have an underlying condition, they have the choice to come to work or they have the choice to resign. And we hope that they won't resign. We don't want teachers to be in that position, but ultimately, each employee has to make that choice.
Would we have the opportunity to like amend the motion and maybe have like a motion to add high school students with that?
Yes, Mr. Evans, if
I make a motion to amend to leave what you spoke about, but add high school students on the AABB schedule.
I second that motion. Barry Lewis.
I have a motion to amend the motion that was made by Mr. Glenn McCoy. The amend motion was motion given by Mr. Dennis Edwards. And was that second by Barry Lewis?
Barry Lewis. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Let me withdraw my second on that motion that I made so it can go forward.
Go ahead, Mr. McCoy.
I really don't see a problem with the AB schedule in high school.
That since you withdrew your motion, that motion has fell dead, and now the motion on the floor will be the motion to bring back all that Dr. Taylor has brought to us, plus the AD plan given to the high school. And that has been a motion by Mr. Dennis, a second by Mr. Barry Lewis. And at this time, I'm opening this up for discussion, which I think we have had a lot of discussion on this, so, but I'll yield to any discussion for just a few moments. If no discussion, I call for a vote, and at this time, I yield to you, Ms. Valerie Newton.
Thank you, sir. As I call your name, please indicate your vote. Chris Clark.
Aye.
Dennis Edwards.
Aye.
Gary Lewis.
Aye.
Gary Rhoda.
No?
Vincent Rozier.
Aye.
Corey Singletary.
Nay.
Alan West.
Aye.
Glenn McCoy.
Aye.
Roger Carroll. Mr. Chairman, you have 7 yeses and 2 noes.
I would like to say I thank you, Dr. Taylor, for your plan and all those people that have worked so hard and diligently. Not hard, it was difficult, but for the difficult task of getting this together. And at the same time, I'd like to thank the board for coming together and accepting a plan that we're going to try to put in motion. And again, we know that this is not the best plan, as Dr. Taylor said, that things can change, but it's a start. And I yield to you, Dr. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the board in making your recommendation. We will do everything that we can to make this plan work logistically. I will now have to get with the high schools, let them know that they need to begin to develop schedules, as well as the transportation department, to make sure that routes are available for students in grades 9 through 12. And so we will keep the board updated on the progress.
Thank you very much. We do not have any closed session items, so we'll skip that. We'll go to board concerns. Do we have any concerns? If no concerns, in closing, I'll just say we do have a regular scheduled meeting. I think it is October the 12th. And I would ask that if you would continue to pray for our children, pray for our faculty and staff as we move forward with this progress that we're making. And I thank you again for attending this meeting. All in favor to adjourn, please say aye.
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 Thank you very much. Thank you very much.